Hello YouTube and welcome to another Zen and the Art of Miniature Painting video. And in this video today I'm going to be looking at the Ultramarines upgrade bits from Forgeworld, doing a little bit of a review, some close-up shots, and a bit of a walkthrough, talkthrough, and some of my thoughts on what you can and can't do with these bits. What I've done here is I've laid everything out that I ordered. I've ordered most of the bits for the Ultramarines. I haven't got a Caesarean upgrade set or any of those pieces yet, nor have I got the squad, so that's going to be excluded for now. However, when I do get that eventually, one hopes, I will actually upload a video for that and do a quick review of that too, but this is a good start. So if you've bought things like the Mark of Kelth box, this is a good place to begin if you want to make a specifically Ultramarines looking force. Maybe you want to do a unit of veterans or something, and you just want to break up the monotony of some of the breastplates and so on. You do have 30 Marines, so it might be a good idea. So as you can see in front of us here, I'll just start in the center. We've got a set of Ultramarine icons, and I'll give you close-ups of those in a minute. I've got the Ultramarines upgrade set here on the left and kind of snaking into the middle, and that consists of Mark IV shoulder pads. You get 10 of those. You get 10 breastplates as well. These are the Mark IV Praetorian armor, which the Ultramarines had as a special mark, and these are obviously specific to the Legion. And then you get 2 sets of 5 heads. Again, these are the Praetorian helmets. They've got a really cool face grill, which you'll see up more up close and personal in a minute. One's got 4 heads and a Centurion's head, and the other's got 4 heads and a bear head. And then on the other side, just over here, we've got Mark II armor shoulder pads, and just below that we've got the Mark III shoulder pads, which is quite nifty. If you've used some of those marks, which I have done, it's a nice way to retrofit some molded shoulder pads, if that's your style. And what we'll do now is have a closer look at some of the individual pieces. So I thought we'd begin with the oldest mark of armour, which is the Mark II shoulder pad. And as you can see, it fits the sort of standard Mark II shoulder pad design. All it has is a embossed Ultramarine symbol on the outside. They're identical. There's absolutely nothing unique about any of these shoulder pads. Pretty much just look like they've, hot off the production lines from the Mechanicum. So you get 2 of these. They're quite nice. Again, there's nothing to write home about here except the fact that you've got your Legion symbol sort of embossed on it, which is a very, very nice thing for those who don't like decals. And then we move on to the Mark III shoulder pads, and again it's pretty much the same. It's just a case of the standard shoulder pad with an embossed Ultramarines symbol on it. The casts are quite clean actually, which is really nice, although what I would say is that these joins, which you can see here, because they're at an angle, let me just kind of get it slightly elevated so you can better see that. Because they're at an angle, they can sometimes be a bit tricky and might require you to kind of trim down the back end a little bit, and if you're not careful, what you can end up doing is damaging this top sort of flange bit there. Okay, so just be careful when you cut those off. And then we get to the newer style of the armour, which is the Mark IV shoulder pad, which is most likely can be seen amongst Ultramarines because they had quite nifty supply chain, so they got the newer stuff as it came out. And again, 5 more of the same per sort of resin sprue. You get 2 of them in the set. You get 10 of each kind, regardless of which ones you order. And again, there's nothing really to write home about. They are very nice. As usual, the resin detail is insane. So if you look actually at the edge here, you can see there's a slight indent, which is really, really nice. And again, just watch these joins here. It's actually better, I think. I mean, it can be tricky, and if you're not careful, you can damage the shoulder pad. But it is actually better than some of the ways that the normal shoulder pads come, where they're connected on the actual edge itself. Which means if you're not careful with your clippers, you can end up with a kind of wound, which doesn't look very good. So that is the shoulder pads. And now we move on to the icons. Again, these are really highly detailed, and what I'll do is I will zoom in really close, and let's let it focus for a moment, and then you can see some of the details. Now you'll notice that these things are so thin that they're actually embedded inside resin. So the idea here is to clip them off, or clip them out, or cut them out actually with a hobby knife. A much sharper one than this, mind you. I'm just using this for pointing. But again, the detail is incredibly good. I mean, what I'll do is if I zoom in on this parchment a little, there you go. Oops, come on, focus already. There we go. You can see the sort of etched in writing, and there's an Ultramarine symbol in the top corner. and again, you know, it's going to take a bit of effort to kind of cut these out, but I think they'll look really nice. And my idea is to use these for my Vixilia, for my units, and I think that I'm going to give them Roman style legionary standards. So there'll be a pole with maybe an animal on top, and then I can attach these to the facing of that, and that'll kind of give it a very Ultramarines flavour. So you've got the 4 here. You get 3 identical of these when you order it, which is quite nice. And then we move on to the upgrade set, which gives you the heads. Now these are Mark IV Praetorian heads. There are 2 sets, as I mentioned. There's this one and another with a bear head, which I'll show you in a moment. And what makes these ones so great is actually this front grille. So if I just zoom in on that, you can see it's got a really awesome looking grille, and the sort of sergeant's helmet is incredibly well detailed. It's very similar to your Mark IV helmet. It's just got this custom face grille, which looks really, really good. And as you can see, there's lots of little details here. You know, you can see there. I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect that one there might be the sort of the Nuncio Vox chap. But you could always use a normal Mark IV Nuncio Vox for that. And then, as you can see, again, just more little details, which make them nicely unique and so on. Really, really nice looking. I'm a big fan, and the level of detail again is just immense. I'll give you a rear shot as well, just so you have a sense of what they look like. Very, very modern looking compared to some of the other other Heresy Legion stuff, but really grand. And again, we're just looking at another set of heads. These are slightly different, which is quite nice. There's a high level of variety. They look more or less the same, but what you can see is that there is a little bit of variation, and it breaks away from that kind of generic look which a lot of Ultramarines get accused of. So that's quite nice. The faces are really interesting in terms of the raise platform. I'm thinking of doing mine in gold, so that kind of thing, maybe for a veteran squad. I think that would look quite cool. And then you get a bear head. Now, I must confess, I'm not a big fan of bear heads in 40k in general. I think they look a little bit silly. If you're a Space Marine and you've got this amazing kit, a helmet that gives you auto sensors and so on, why would you take the damn thing off? But this one comes with a sort of chap with laurels that comes around the back. Now, I think what I might use this for is maybe an Imperial Noble or something, because he looks quite stern-faced, doesn't he? But I think it was on the Eye of Horus podcast they mentioned that unless the guy's screaming, the sort of helmetless heads just don't really do it for them. And I must confess, I think I'm on the same boat as them. But the detail, I mean, look at that, the craggy face and the ear and everything is just so well detailed. It is very beautifully done. I just don't know if it's something I would necessarily use, but definitely usable for something else, maybe an Imperial Noble, a Rogue Trader, that kind of thing. An Imperial Army Commander, perhaps. But exceptional looking heads, as I'm sure you'll no doubt agree. I'm a little bit concerned, and I haven't really had much of a play with it, but I think you might have to cut these sort of sections here off, and to obviously get an overhang, and I don't know how that'll look when it's done, so hopefully it'll be okay. It's a bit of an odd kind of piece to see, really, but as you can see there, hold on, there you go, you can see it in profile. I think that the idea is to cut that little bit of resin off, but it's not the end of the world. I'm sure we can just get in there and trim it carefully. As with all things Forgeworld, it's always a good idea to be really, really, really careful. And finally, in our little review, we're getting to the end, and it's now just the torsos. So these are the Praetorian torsos, not to be confused with the Suzerain ones, or the Invictarii, I think they call them. Again, what you expect from Forgeworld. These ones are actually a lot more Legion customized than some of the other ones we've seen for something like the Thousand Suns, but they're subtly done, which I quite like. Again, you've got these nice divided sort of lines, very clean, which will be nice for a nice highlight along the edge there, which is reminiscent of some of the helmets, which have got similar kind of indentations, and again, lots of legionary icons everywhere. Really, really nice. One of my favourite things about this is some of this tubing that you see just here on the sides. It's so detailed. It's incredibly fine detailed. And you can see here, this one, for instance, he's got, what I'll do is I'll put it down and zoom in for you, so it's not shaking around because of my hands. You can see there the sort of the legionary wings, and just moving along, and again the laurel coming in, incredibly detailed, you know, beautifully sculpted, and these rivets are just going to look amazing with a bit bit of paint on them, I think. Again, there are bits of flash on these, but with all things Forgeworld, it's always just a case of a sharp hobby knife. Again, sharper than this one. This is a dull knife. Do not use a knife like this. Use a nice sharp knife to just kind of trim it away, and be really, really careful, because there's so much detail, and I have been guilty in the past of accidentally cutting bits of detail off through clumsiness. But I mean, just look at the indentations. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's it, really. You get two of these. So you've got one here, and there's a second little set that you get as well. One of mine has fallen off in transit, which is fine. And as you can see, the actual order of the layout isn't the same, so they must have two separate. I think these two are swapped around. They must have two different molds to make these, but that's really cool. So incredibly detailed stuff. I'm really pleased with it. It's given me a push to get my Ultramarines moving again, and I'm really, really excited about getting some progress, seeing some progress soon. So I mean, it's not cheap, it is pricey. I won't bore you with prices because it depends on where you live, I suppose, and in your currency. But for several pounds, I managed to get most of my upgrade bits, and I think there's enough here, if you intersperse it carefully amongst your units, that you can really, really make your legion look, very much like an Ultramarines legion. So thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, please post them below. Please make sure to check out the blog, also in the show notes, and I hope that your heresy planning and building goes according to plan and very well. All the best. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.